so I'm getting a little tired of taking my rod apart and putting it in the back of the truck when I see fish down at the other end of the beach. So I'm gonna work on making a rod rack to go on this roof rack. And I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna do it. First off, I cut these pieces of 2-inch PVC pipe. I cut them about 8 inches long. I'm gonna be using 1x4 to mount them to. And then what I'm gonna show you right now is how I flare them. When I flare them, I heat them up, and you can see that I got some burn spots on that. I heated them with a propane torch. You know, by rights, it should look like this, but it's only fishing, so I'm going to use it anyway. So obviously I'm going to heat with the torch, and then I'm going to use this sledgehammer that I have lying here to round out my ends. I have a preference for MAP gas, and if you have gloves, I'd recommend it. Some of us are smarter than others, so yeah, there I go. I burned that one again. It gets pretty hot down here. This MAP gas is really hot, and you know, if you have patience, you don't have to get so close. You could also, I've done this over an electric stove as well. So if you don't have a torch, you can just put the electric stove on high and, you know, have at it. Keep spinning it so you don't burn any areas. I toasted this one a little bit, but it's going to work. It's going to be okay. And it is hot. This torch is blowing this up through this PVC pipe. And yeah, I should be wearing gloves. Hey, you know. And then I'm going to round it out on this. I want to keep moving it so it gives me a nice even round. And I'm going to move it until it cools down. You know, if I wanted to, I could, you know, throw some water at it, maybe have a spray bottle. But let's see how this works out. Okay, I want to get a nice flare on this because one, it's going to be easier to put the you know, the butt of the fishing pole in it, and also I'm going to have a method for locking the poles onto the roof that is going to involve this flare. So, okay, like I said, I blackened it a little bit. If I want to, I could scrape that off, sand that off later. I might not, but there's my flare. Okay, so I'm set up to drill a few holes here. I'm going to drill 2 holes. I marked them at 1 inch and 2 3/4 inch because I'm going to be mounting down to this 1x4. This was something I was working on that I decided to abandon and go this route. I've done this route before. I just thought I'd find something faster, and I didn't like it. So we're going to do this. We're going to drill a hole at 1 and 2 3/4 with my hole drill so that I could get my my driver through there to drill a screw underneath and onto this wood. And I'm also going to drill a hole here with a bigger hole bit for the stem. I'm going to drill the hole, so I put that one at 5 inches. I got 1, 2 3/4 and 5 inches. Then I'm going to slot this, so when I put my pole into the pole holder, the stem of the reel will go into this slot. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so once I started drilling my holes, I realized that this hole was going to be plenty big for the stem of my reel. And I drilled my holes on the lettering and the numbers there for a reason, because I have to cut a slot. It also was an easy way to line them up, but I used them as a reference. And I'm going to cut a slot, and I'll probably mark with a pencil along here. Now, you could cut this with anything. You could cut it with a multi-tool. If I could cut it with a table saw if I have to. I'm probably going to use my 4-inch grinder and cut it real quick and easy because I'm looking at my 4-inch grinder right now. But let's see how we make out. I think I'll probably mark a line along here and then cut, and we'll see how it comes out. Okay, so the 4-inch grinder, 4.5-inch, whatever it is, was really the ticket. I used it's a masonry blade for cutting concrete. I use it a lot for cutting plastics. Sometimes it melts into plastics. It worked beautifully here. I was even able to to flare these ends out a little bit. And ultimately, I might hit all these edges with a little bit of sandpaper before I put it all together. So, once again, you might have a better idea about this. I could have done that with a multi-tool, with a Sawzall, with a table saw, with a circular saw if I was real daring. But that 4-inch grinder really worked well for me. Okay, so I marked the inside of these. I don't know if you could see it, but I marked inside of these at 1 inch and 2 3/4, the same dimensions that I used for these, so that I can get my holes pretty straight through. If I had a drill press, it'd probably be a little easier, but I don't. So I marked those holes. I'm going to look through and try and get on those marks. I'm going to try and get as straight below. Okay, that looks about right. Okay, without drilling through my hand. And I'm going to drill pilot holes because I just think that, there's a chance of the plastic splitting if I try and drill right through it. Okay, so now I've got pilot holes in there. I don't know if you can see them. You can see them from back there. Okay, so that I can then mount this to my 1x4 that will then mount to the top of my escape. Okay, now this is about the best part. I want to show you something I did that's really neat with this coupling. Now, couplings typically have a rib in them. Sometimes there are repair couplings that don't have ribs inside of them to stop the pipe. Okay, here's what I did. Okay, with my bandsaw, I cut this groove out. Okay, and I went around, I took the rib out. It was real easy with the bandsaw, but I mean, I've been in a pinch before and like carved this out with a knife, a Dremel tool. There are any number of ways that you can cut this and take out this rib. And the reason that I did this is because I'm going to take this, I'm going to slide this on, okay, and now I can put my reel in, have the stem right here, and lock that reel in. Okay, that way it's going to stay in place. That way when this is up on top of my truck and I see fish and I'm trucking down the beach, all I got to do is go like that, slide my rod and reel out, and then hopefully catch some fish. Okay, so there you have it. Okay, now I got to work on mounting this. Okay, so the stem of the reel is going to go in here. Your pole's of course going in here, and then you have the opportunity to lock it. This is going to be where the stem of the reel is. The collar can't come off because of the flare. Now, how far you go with this depends on how much you want to protect your rods and reels. These could certainly be padded with a little rubber hose if you wanted to. Put a slit in it. You could round them out more. You could sand them more. I've done this on the front bumper of a K5 Blazer, and I used to run around with my poles on it. I used Schedule 80 pipe, and I used carriage bolts instead of a couple of screws. This is just so I could put my rods up on top of the truck when I'm running down the beach. And once again, how much you want to protect your rods and reels will be, determined by what kind of fasteners you use here and what kind of job you do. Take the opportunity to remind you to be responsible when you fish. Watch out for people on the beach. Don't leave any litter. Take care of the fish. If you bring them home, eat them. And be kind to the environment. It's great on the beach. Let's see how we do with the front part and how we get this up on top of the escape. Okay, in the spirit of keeping this stupid simple and keeping it and making it easy for people to get the materials, I'm not using anything special. For the front part of the rod holder, I'm using 1-inch PVC pipe, which you get all the stuff you get at your Home Depot. And I'm going to cut out about 90 degrees of it. I hope that that's enough because, I don't want the eyes to get caught up here when we go to put these in. the rack on the Escape, it doesn't span very far, so it's a little bit difficult in that respect. It's probably not a good idea to be working a power tool and doing video at the same time, but just like that. Okay, so I'm looking at these and I'm looking at the diameter of my rod, and I think what I'm going to do is cut maybe 110 degrees instead of that 90 degrees that I initially cut. Okay, well, just like the other end, I'm going to pilot drill, or actually not pilot drill, I'm drilling holes in this so that I don't split it when I screw it down. Okay, so I drilled my pieces for the front, and I got to admit that I did pull out the Dremel tool. I figured that my line was going to be around here. I didn't want any sharp edges interfering with my line, creating any nicks or anything like that. The stuff after I cut it with the bandsaw could be pretty sharp. So, you know, next I'm going to screw these on to my board the same way I did my the tubes for the back of the for the rod and reel. Okay, so I got them screwed down. I'm just thinking of a way to fasten down the rods into these. Okay, and I got this nifty red bungee made in the USA. It looks like it's silicone or something. Hopefully it'll withstand the sun, and hopefully it'll look nice. I think I'm going to look for a screw for this end. I want this end because it's really close as far as the size goes, so I want this end to be able to pivot. So let me see if I can find some nice stainless steel hardware. And the more I'm thinking about it, if I can find some nice big zip ties, I think I'm going to zip tie this on, see how I like it, and maybe think of a better solution. I am afraid that the zip ties might deteriorate, get brittle in the sun. So we'll see. We'll see how that all works out. Let's see if I can find some hardware for this bungee strap. All right, so I put a screw. Stainless steel screw in the end of this. I made it fairly loose, so when we have 4 poles on there, I could go like that. Depends on how far you're going. You know, if I'm bringing the poles from the house, I'm going to probably want to strap this on. I kept the hook at the end. It does make it around there, and I could clip it over. Well, I can clip it over with 2 hands, or if this board is mounted, I will show you when it's on the truck. But I decided if I could leave this hanging off of the end of the rack, I could stick with that. We'll see. I'm gonna try some zip ties. I found some extra large zip ties that I used when I did my heating system, and we're gonna try zip tying this stuff onto the roof of the Escape. See how it works out. See how my poles fit. Okay, so these are some really long and stupid, massive zip ties. So I think I'm gonna try 2 on each piece, see how they work out. Okay, so here's my finished product. You can see I use these big ass zip ties to secure this. You know, I tightened them up with a pair of pliers. I got my poles up here. You can see the way they lock in and the way they come out. I hope you can see that. I can't see my camera. And we have this up here. It's actually looking pretty good. Looks like I'll be on the beach fishing tomorrow. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Once again, fish responsibly. Be careful of other people out there. Don't leave litter on the beach. Be good to the fish. Peace.